The scene abruptly switched. Night had fully fallen. An underground stone chamber was cold and damp. Torches were fixed into the rough stone walls, crackling as they burned. The flickering firelight stretched people's shadows long one moment and short the next. The air was thick with mildew and the faint high smell of soil. The surface of the heavy stone table was covered in scratches of varying depths. Leon, Victor, Rebecca. The three were already seated. None of them spoke. Each sat quietly waiting, lost in their own thoughts. The atmosphere was so oppressive it felt like a butter pressing on the chest. Before long, footsteps sounded from outside the door, mixed with the dissatisfied muttering of a young boy. The blond youth Martin walked in, behind the white-haired old man Tiger. He was still dressed in an exquisite silver-gray banquet suit, with a jewel-lead brooch pinned at the collar. There was a faint scent of alcohol and perfume clinging to him. Clearly, this red young master had just been dragged here by force from a lively party. Martin looked around at the unfamiliar, chilly slum hideout. His brows knitted tightly together. Full of confusion, he turned to the old man beside him. "Old man Tiger, what is this place?" "Get in there, boy." Tiger, expression less lie, shoved him lightly in the back, signaling him to move forward. Leon raised his eyes and looked at Martin as he entered. His gaze paused for a moment on the boy's luxurious formal wear. Meeting again after 3 years, his tone was so calm that no joy or anger could be heard in it. "Long time no see, Martin. Looks like you've been doing well." Martin suddenly lifted his head. His eyes collided with Leon. Speffer, he was prepared. His face was instantly filled with disbelief. His feet instinctively stepped backward. He almost stumbled over the stone steps behind him. His eyes widened as he cried out in shock, his voice cracking apart, as if he had seen a ghost. Captain. How? You're still alive. Only after the shock passed did he finally come back to his senses. He finally understood why old man Tiger had suddenly barged into the banquet and dragged him away. Not only had the dough BTS in his heart not been cleared up, they had only piled up more and more. No wonder old man Tiger suddenly pulled me out of the banquet. I was wondering about that. He walked over to the round table. His gaze swept across several familiar faces. His brows tightened even more. He had absolutely no idea what this sudden gathering was about. Huh? Why is everyone here? Leon folded his hands in front of him on the table. He leaned forward slightly. The aura around him turned icy in an instant. Without a single word of small talk, he went straight to the point and revealed the reason he had summoned everyone tonight. Every word hit the stone table like shards of ice. Let's skip the nonsense. This reunion of our squad, 3 years later, is for one thing only: to find the mole who framed me back then. The moment Martin heard the words, "the mole," his eyes widened in shock. His face turned several shades paler at once. He instinctively shrank back a little and stammered out a question, as if this were the first time he had ever heard such a claim. A mole?" At his side, old man Tiger stepped forward. He raised his hand and heavily placed a long, slender object onto the stone table. The dull sound rang especially clear in the silent chamber. He glanced at Martin, whose face had gone pale, and spoke in explanation. "Oh right. This is something I just found on this kid. It looked a little suspicious to me, so I brought it along too." Leon bent down and looked at the object on the table. His fingertip brushed over its smooth, warm surface. The grain was clear, the texture fine. He recognized the material at a glance. Victor spoke in a calm tone, with a trace of irony barely hidden underneath. S-rank dangerous beast mammoth ivory. As expected of a noble young master. Even something this rare and expensive can be bought on a whim. Martin panicked instantly. He hurriedly waved his hands in denial. His speech sped up several times over. Cold sweat seeped from his forehead and slid down his cheeks. His eyes darted around in panic, not daring to meet anyone's gaze at the table. Of course, I could untafford something like that either. My relationship with my stepmother is bad, so my father spent a fortune on this, to have me give it to her, and repair things between us. Victor rested his fingertips against his chin. His heavy gaze stayed fixed on that piece of ivory, as he slowly explained its special use. Then he looked up at Leon, and brought up the key clue connected to the injury from back then. Every word struck Martin's taut nerves like a hammer. This thing isn't just highly malleable. It also has excellent compatibility with magic. Some smiths use it to forge enchanted weapons. It gives them strong piercing power and deadly force. Captain, if I remember right, you once said, the mole Saint Ab-ed you with a weapon that was thin and long, didn't he? With that, Victor looked to Leon for confirmation. After hearing this, Martin was so frightened that his body began to tremble slightly. His hands waved faster and faster, as he desperately denied it. His voice was full of panic, and he was already on the verge of tears. This really is just a gift. I've never heard anything about it being made into a weapon. Leon raised his eyes and looked at Martin. His gaze was so cold that it held not a trace of warmth. The atmosphere around him suddenly dropped. 3 years of injustice, that fatal strike on the battlefield, all the clues seemed to point to this former young squadmate before him. And yet, in his heart, he had already completely identified the true betrayer from back then. The truth is obvious now. I already know who the mole was who framed me back then. Leon slowly rose to his feet. His eyes were filled with disappointment and heartache that he could no longer hide. A heavy sense of loss weighed in his voice. I never thought the person who betrayed me would be you. As the words fell, Leon raised a gun that had already been loaded. His arm was steady without the slightest tremor. The muzzle aimed straight and firmly at Martin's chest. Without a hint of hesitation. Rebecca's face was full of disbelief. She looked at the cold gun barrel, then at Martin's deathly pale face. Her heart was in complete turmoil. She quickly turned to Leon at her side to make sure, hoping to hear him deny it, hoping this was all just some misunderstanding. Captain, are you sure it's Martin? Martin shook his head frantically. He kept backing away step by step. Before long, his back hit the cold stone wall. There was nowhere left to retreat. He desperately wanted to explain his innocence. He was so anxious that tears were almost coming out. Captain, it wasn't me, I didn't. Leon barked a cold shout, cutting off everything he was about to say. His face was full of ice-cold resolve. He had no intention of hearing a single word of explanation. 3 years of injustice, 3 years of lost time, could not be erased by a few desperate excuses. Shut up. I don't want to hear your explanation. A burst of fire flared from the muzzle. The sharp gun shot tore through the silence of the chamber, echoing back and forth against the stone walls. The bullet struck Martin square in the chest. Bright red blood spread in an instant, quickly soaking through his pale formal clothes. The sight was horrifying. From the moment you betrayed me, you should have known this day would come. Martin's body instantly lost all strength. It swayed once, then dropped straight backward like a falling leaf onto the icy stone floor, hitting it with a dull thud. He never moved again. "Martin!" Rebecca cried out and immediately got to her feet, hurrying forward. She rushed to Martin's side as he lay on the ground. Seeing the blood continuing to pour from his chest, she felt grief and sorrow rise in her heart. Each of them was lost in their own thoughts. No one said a word. Only the crackling sound of the torches remained in the chamber. Leon let out a long breath, as if he had finally cast off the crushing burden he had carried for 3 years. The nerves that had been wound tight for 3 years finally loose-ended completely at this moment. He lowered his gun, cast his eyes down at the person on the ground, then turned to look at Old Man Tiger, who stood there in silence. In a flat tone he gave the order, as if he were handling nothing more than some ordinary trivial matter. "It's over. Master, help me get rid of the body."